Oh, yeah!
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Spear from the Past. We're here to talk about King of the Interviews. It's King of the Ring from 1999. They'll be more clear when we get more into it. But I've got Ryan Payne here. Ryan, how's it going?
I'm doing very good, Malcolm. And honestly, I'm actually excited to talk about this because, I'll go into more later on. But this is like one of those pay per views where the moment you told me what year it's from, a lot of memories just started flowing back from this.
Yeah. But as I like to always start off these things, I like to do an on this day segment. So on this day in June the 27th from 1999, the number one movie was Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The number one song was If You Had My Love by Jennifer Lopez. And the number one album was Millennium from Backstreet Boys. I remember rushing out to buy that as soon as it came out.
That was Millennium, and then that was big time during the boy band era, where it was Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and then you had some of the other boy bands everyone else wasn't paying attention to.
Yeah. But with that, we get start things off. I'll get because I'm going to start off by recapping the TV first round that they had just to sort of build up the thing, because for the longest time I always thought the King of the Ring pay-per-views had every match, but then I realized it didn't. But the first round matches we had Billy Gunn defeating Viscera. We had Ken Shamrock defeating Jeff Jarrett. We had Big Show defeating Droz, who I don't actually know who that is.
I remember Droz. It's been. I didn't get it when I got into wrestling. Droz was already a thing, but because of Beyond the Mat, I do know of the man who is Droz, and I've already forgotten his name. But in Beyond the Mat, one of the stories that one of the wrestlers who were being followed in that documentary is Droz, on how I believe he was a football star. He was being recruited by the WWF, and one of the things that he says in the documentary and why Vince wanted to bring him was because he can be able to throw up on command. And they have that one interaction where he's talking with Vince, and Vince wants him to do it, and it has that whole thing where Vince does his announcer voice like, "Oh my God, he's gonna puke! Oh my God, look at him! He's about to puke! He's about to puke!" He doesn't do like a full throw, but he gets enough out to show that he has some stomach bile control. But it was like one of those days where he didn't eat a lot.
Yeah.
But I believe when he was brought in, I think as an extra for the Road Warriors, or I think what they were called LOD at the time, like LOD 2000, and he played a part. One of the memorable things about was they were playing a lot into Hawk's substance abuse angle, to where Hawk he's drugged up or something, and he's on top of the Titantron threatening to jump off. Then Droz goes up to calm him down, but no, he pushes him off. And that's like one of those things. And then he splits off into a single star. But yeah, it's been like that with Droz was someone that I'm like, okay, I just have to remember a couple things about him.
Yeah, and then we had Kane defeating Test. Then we had Road Dogg defeating the Godfather. We had China defeating Val Venus. We had El Snow, Hardcore Holly defeating El Snow. And then we had X-Pac defeating Big Boss Man. And one thing that just looking at these first round matches, like they're all sort of barely long matches. But the longest was like 3 minutes.
Oh my God, I agree with you. Like with today's wrestling like discourse and culture, it's so hilarious. Everyone wants to complain about match times where, like, this whole thing was a pay-per-view. So I understand why some of these matches were shorter, because the King of the Ring was the pay-per-view. So they couldn't do like every match gets more than 6 or 10 minutes. I mean, maybe it could have been done, but looking at the way the bracket was set up, where it was like a 16-man kind of thing, no, they couldn't have done that.
But with that, we get but that was all the first round matches. Then we get into the pay per view, and then it opens up with Michael Cole doing a interview with Ken, with the I think it was Vincent. I can't remember who it was, but basically it was sort of saying that Ken Shamrock might be out of action due to him getting involved in the Vincent McMahon storyline, which is also going on throughout this pay per view as well. But and then we go into the first round match, which was X-Pac defeating Hardcore Holly, which was just a very quick match that sort of ended in DQ when Hardcore Holly just attacked X-Pac with a chair. And I mean, considering when we get into it in a minute, it's like having Hardcore Holly sort of get himself disqualified, DQ'd out of the tournament when he could have tried to win the match and go on to face the person who had an issue with in the first place, but it is what it is.
I kind of think that moment with Hardcore getting I think it really was like in the story of what we saw, like the people who started advancing, there really was a story there of X-Pac, because I remember a bit like around 99, like X-Pac, young guy, young guy because of his size and all that in the WWF. He was never seen more. I think he was viewed around that time as far as championship. He was never seen more of going either for the European Championship, which was in circulation during that time, or maybe a possible shot at an Intercontinental title. But he was always seen as in the low card. So, and he was huge popular because he and Road Dogg during that storyline were the only members of DX keeping the whole thing going. So the fact that he had that underdog popularity, and also Sean Waltman, of course, his days as when he became the 1-2-3 Kid, he knows how to get a crowd behind him. So it's definitely looking. I mean, the fact that it's a very short, under 5-minute match, I think X-Pac, Sean Waltman is someone who can at least psychologically get the crowd on his side, and maybe not all the crowd, but some of the crowd.
Yeah. But yeah, then then we go into the backstage interview, who I think was Terry Taylor. He was interviewing Hardcore Holly.
My God.
Yeah, he is interviewing Hardcore Holly after the match. It was just a basic sort of interview, and then like Hardcore Holly says he's a big shot and calls out Big Show. And there we go. And a lot of these interview segments are very quick. Not much is said in the middle anyway. Then we have Kane defeating Big Show, which the match itself, I think it was fine. It was just sort of them sort of punching each other. Like there wasn't really anything spectacular from this match. And then you had Hardcore Holly interferes because, of course, which look, and it's one of those ones like I get Hardcore Holly did have issues with Big Show at this time, but you could have just booked him to win his match against X-Pac, and then that way book Big Show to win his match, and you have them face off anyway. But it is what it is. But Ryan, what did you think of Kane versus Big Show?
It was really weird watching that match because obviously having seen Kane versus Big Show over a dozen times, like in the at least considered modern wrestling, seeing them at a time where Big Show really was like the way they presented him as a huge threat, and versus Mass Kane, it really was something. Like it's like I had to put on extra tinted rose colored glasses just to be like, let's just watch this match. And if as far as a big match hoss fight, I think it did accomplish in some senses, but yeah, it was really hard to watch that. Not hard as if I couldn't bear away from it, but like I said, with all the matches I've seen these guys put on before, it's like dipping my toes back in the early Attitude Era days. It's like, man, seeing where these guys end up. But even then, I still found some entertainment from it because at least this was during the time when Kane and Big Show were 100% locked in their roles before, and this was still around the time where kayfabe was still on that line where some people either bought Vince McMahon on TV saying it's fake, or some people were like, no, I don't believe him. So they really presented themselves as larger than life characters. So as far as when it comes with the way they present their characters and how they decided to play the match, I think I do say I did get some enjoyment from it.
Yeah. And then we have a backstage segment of Vince saying that someone has to go to the hospital, which you presumably think he's talking about Shane, which we'll get more into that when we get down to it. And then we get into the next match, which was Billy Gunn defeating Ken Shamrock. And then where Billy Gunn comes out, who sort of cuts a promo telling Ken to either forfeit or take a beating. And then Ken comes down to the ring, and he's still with blood on his chin. By the way, it's like he was still like clearly bleeding. It's like, and his like they came in. Ken tried to put up a fight. Then it got to the point where Teddy Long stopped the match because Ken was just bleeding too much, making Billy Gunn win. Then yeah, it's like the match was fine. Like, and it's what as at this point, it's like there's like your three matches, and then all three of them have kind of like bullshit endings with some sort of chicanery. It's like,
Yeah, I think this is the one thing about that pay per view. At least with this King of the Ring, the fact was this is the one where it was taking a back seat to what the real story was focused on. Unfortunately, that's why I'm like, man, this is the fourth time they put on this pay per view and they're not even trying to even get no. I think this is the sixth. It's been a while. No, it's not the sixth. They've done this at least half a dozen more times. So I think it's somewhere within the 12th or 13th time they put on this pay per view. This one really does feel like, yeah, they're not trying here. Like, it's because they're so focused on the main storyline and also within the WWF Championship that this one really does take a back seat.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that there was at least a few. Even then, there was still that engaging storyline. I mean, with the whole thing, X-Pac getting hurt by Hardcore Holly, at Holly, and it was to play into him having an underdog role going into because his first round match was freaking against a big boss man, so it clearly was like putting bigger opponents against him to get that underdog moment. As I went back to for Sean Waltman for to play that psychology of getting the crowd on his side, and yeah, it didn't work here, but I think maybe some of it worked in the next match he has. But I think that also took a back seat to when Road Dogg had his quarterfinal match.
Yeah, and this was the seventh King of the Ring pay per view.
Okay, I might be thinking pay per view, but they have done this like not as a pay per view. So,
yeah. But yeah, then we have a quick interview of Chyna, who thinks Road Dogg has big brass balls to face. Which is, I just thought was a funny line.
God, that's also one thing that hurts going back onto this. Seeing how Chyna was like in the looking at how her career trajectory was going, and especially remembering '99 and what came after the King of the Ring. Yeah, her career. If her career had gone one way, she would have been one of the top mega stars of that company. But even then, that was hilarious. Like that was her character perfectly down. Like she's tough. She doesn't need to say a lot. And it clearly was like it did play along that time where it really was jumping along where they weren't sure if they could put a woman on TV to face a man. And I don't know if you came across it, but Mick Foley said in an interview earlier on, I think it was this year or some time ago, reflecting on Chyna, where when Chyna was getting started, it was a documentary. I can't remember if it was a WWE produced one or if it was just a wrestler produced documentary. But Mick Foley does mention how when she was getting started, a lot of people were on edge to, take a bump from her. And Mick Foley's like, no, I'll take a bump. And then when he did it, because he was so well respected in the locker room, it opened up the door for more men to want to start taking bumps from her.
Yeah, but anyway, it leads into sort of the next match, which is Road Dogg versus China, which Road Dogg came out on top, and once again another match with interference,
Yeah, but
which
surprisingly, that was a match that was more than 5 minutes.
yeah, I mean this is a case where like the interference made sense because like you had Triple H coming out of China, it was like whenever there's a manager at ringside, you know they're going to get it come into play.
Oh,
um
100%.
but but the match itself, I thought that the match itself was like at least pretty decent. Like it was competitive, and it does make me wonder if they had booked China to win this the King of the Ring, would they call her King China or Queen China? Because
That would have been so fun. That would have been funny to see how they play on that. Or would it
yeah,
tie back into the eventual fallout between her and Triple H in this year? Because
yeah,
they do have a fallout later on. Because I remember this is the '99. This was also the summers. This was also the year when SummerSlam, where Stone Cold Mankind that triple threat match.
yeah. Um, but what are your thoughts of Road Dogg versus China?
Oh, I mean, for China not being able to like as much as she was limited down, it still paid off very well because she takes a couple of bumps from Road Dogg, but then also there's like Road. I think Road Dogg was trying to do well and playing the psychology of I want to win this match, but then also the bit of the hesitation that I don't want to hit a woman, but also a former stablemate, you know, like trying to play that tension there. But I do love, even though yeah, there was so much interference from Triple H. Triple H knew his role right there, so it was working to be like how the hesitancy that Road Dogg had in that match when he finally just dropped in and started doing his little shake, rattle, and roll on China. That I think those were moments where they did get those like it. The match did a good job in building those pops and getting the audience invested. So when Road Dogg did his Jimmy, like the shake, rattle, and roll, or the rolling leg drop, the rolling knee drop into the pump handle slam, which actually wait, oh, actually, I'm not sure if he did the pump handle slam. This was the one match I wasn't able to rewatch. I just remember moments from that match. It's just like, but as I'm saying though, it was still from the moments I do remember Triple H always getting the representation. China, of course, doing the low, taking the low row for a character for the low blows. It was still a fun match. It was still a fun match to enjoy.
Yeah. And then next up, we had a backstage segment of The Rock mocking The Undertaker and vowing to win the title, just standard The Rock promo sort of thing. Then we get a clip of the Acolytes attacking both the Hardys and the Brood, which was Edge and Christian, and then which leads into the match, which was the Hardy Boys versus the defeating the Brood. And
So early on in their career, man, it was
oh
insane.
yeah, yeah, it really is. But the match itself, I thought was pretty fast paced. And I do think it was pretty good. The Hardys and Edge and Christian sort of both always had great chemistry together. I just wish this match had more time.
Yeah,
I get why it was short because they wanted to try and make as much room for the King of the Ring matches as they could. But I thought the match itself was really good. Like there's a lot of fun. Ryan, what did you think of the Hardys versus the Brood?
I will say that them alone is still very fun. It was God. It's so weird to remember them being part of the Brood. I mean, the fact that the Hardys and the Brood, no matter what happened, I was still going to get a fun time going out of it. Like I think that's my only thing I hated. Yeah, because there was just not enough time given to them, and I think that was the only tag team match of the pay per view. And the fact that I mean, technically, I don't count the main event as a tag team match, but yeah, the fact that that was the only tag team match, it felt like a true disservice.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, next up, we had Michael Cole interviewing The Undertaker about his upcoming match. Then you had Vince McMahon, a segment which I don't know why it needed to be in the ring to. We had Vince coming out for a chat and blames Shawn Michaels for shanking injured and says the match won't take place. And then Shawn comes out and says the match is still happening, and Vince says he will have a suitable replacement and vows to win the match, getting his company back.
Yeah.
Which, and that was the end of that segment. It's like, I mean, they could have saved this for just before the match happened. It was like, because this had no reason to be in the ring at this point in time. They could have done it as a backstage, but
I think it was just.
this?
I personally think that was kind of like the intermission bit, because
Yeah,
this came after Road Dogg in China, so they needed something to at least cool everything down before the next match in the tournament. I mean, yeah, this could have been a backstage bit, no problem. But I think this is also kind of like with Vince. I'm like, oh, I want to stroke my ego. He's trying to hype this main event up because it is CEO Stone Cold. So this is something where Vince wants to play himself as a desperate man, and how he's going to do whatever it takes to win.
yeah. And and then next up we had Billy Gunn defeating Kane in the semifinals. The match itself was fine. Once again, there was more interference, but
it was kind of, honestly, it was a low blow to Billy Gunn, though, because I'm supposed to be like, this man should be like there's no interference in his match against Ken Shamrock, although that was like a no contest thing. But even then, really looking at this pay-per-view, like, so far Billy Gunn's not winning a match clean. Like, there's always, like, there was a referee stoppage in his match, and now this one, Triple H gets involved. And of course, this does kind of tie in on the Raw after, like, Billy Gunn and Triple H formed like a temporary alliance, because at this point the DX thing was kind of becoming, I won't say stale, but it's kind of like Triple H, they're trying to separate themselves from DX. But after, with Road Dogg beating China and Billy Gunn being able to win the tournament, I mean, it fell into a storyline to where now it's like, okay, this DX thing needs to die, and Triple H wants to be the one to kill it, like, in story wise.
Yeah. And then we had X-Pac being interviewed about facing his friend, and it was just usual beat, but may the best man win sentiments that they always do. And then you had X-Pac defeating Road Dogg in the semifinals, which I thought this was a very slow match, but it was also the first clean win of the night as well.
That is true. That's why I think, and it's not only a clean match, but it's the one match out of that whole card where it is babyface versus babyface, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna do this out of sportsmanship, and it really was fucking hilarious just to see how that turned out. I mean, I'm like, yeah, I mean, these are two men who are still holding on to the DX brand. So then, like, we're not gonna destroy this. We're not gonna kill each other.
Yeah.
But I think also it's also was very slow, because you did mention early on, Hardcore Harley did hurt X-Pac with chair shots, and Road Dogg had probably the longest match of the tournament, going like over 5 minutes against China. And so I think it's supposed to be like, in a story bit, these guys are kind of, you're starting to see them being worn out. They're doing a second match of the night, so they're trying to, like, these guys are tired. All they can reduce themselves to doing is just strikes and maybe clotheslines.
Yeah. No, it's one of those ones, like, I get what they're trying to go for. And because I was going to mention this in the next match, I'll mention it now. Like, for X-Pac, to do the story that's like, oh yeah, he's fighting for an injury, like he's had a lot of matches. It's kind of hard to buy when all of X-Pac's matches are short, and there is breaks in between each match,
or when his movesets are pretty much kicks. And especially when you're trying to be like, let him sell a leg, his leg or his knee being hurt, him doing a spinning kick on Road Dogg should be like, okay, he needs to sell that even more.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and then next up we had the Undertaker defeating The Rock. Which
um,
look,
the way it
I
ends
can't
too.
I can't believe I'm saying this about a match featuring Undertaker and The Rock. I think this match went on way too long. um, and it felt like the only reason was as long as it was to fit out in as much interference as possible,
Yes,
because there was a lot of it. But you had Triple H coming out.
Triple H
Had
or Paul. Oh my god, Paul Bearer, like fucking setting up a rag with oh my god, chloroform.
chloroform. Yes.
Like that, I mean,
Uh,
like, come on. I mean, this is I. It's kind of one of those funny things where you see this version of the Undertaker, Ministry of Darkness Undertaker, and we're going, did he? It begs the question: did he ever win a match purely clean that didn't involve spooky interferences or just something with Paul Bearer going on? Like it's one of those more. It's those moments where we're like, man, is nobody like really not like it really does boil down to is this pay per view not being taken seriously? It really does. Like rewatching it, the thought goes in my mind. Vince put a lot of his eggs in that basket with the rivalry with him and Stone Cold for this main event and
yeah.
this storyline. And not only does the King of the Ring tournament falls like in the background, so did the WWF Championship.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, and then after this, we had the backstage segment of Shawn Michaels having Triple H arrested so that he can't be his replacement, and then Vince calls someone on the phone, gets him to turn around, and
Yeah,
there's
Shawn
kind of
Michaels as the commissioner at the time. That's like one of those rare moments where the role of commissioner actually had bite.
yeah, there's the kind of a hilarious moment during that where you can see the Rock in the background just sort of hanging around it, but then sort of backs away as if he wasn't supposed to be in that shot anyway. uh,
uh,
uh, but then next up we go into the King of the Ring final, which was Billy Gunn defeating X Pac. Billy, and then like you had Billy Gunn going straight after the neck, and X Pac trying to fight back, um, which I think he managed to do a little bit, but like ultimately Billy Gunn defeated him.
yeah,
I thought this was fine, but yeah, it is like I don't know if they at this point they were having the King of the Ring winners get a WWE Championship shot down the line, but I think
I
Billy Gunn does get one anyway because I'd look that up.
yeah, that was a continuing thing until I think he ended until the tournament was ended. I actually I don't think it came maybe after the invasion. I think after the invasion it was no I no it was I think it still kept going during the invasion, but I know around the mid 2000s it was just done.
Yeah,
Because at that time, once Vince had gotten WCW and gotten all those wrestlers, he literally just saw no point of continuing a tournament, which I thought was stupid because what better way to still utilize this whole talent pool of wrestlers you have than by having tournaments? I mean, yes, it can get bland having to book it and having to do it annually, but it's still a good way of just having something in your back pocket. So if you wanted to build a new star, you can always like, okay, here's this King of the Ring tournament. Let's see how it plays out.
or
But
you could do just something stupid about having fatal four-way first-round matches.
uh, but going back to this match, I think the one thing I will say that should have been fixed, that should have been a little thing on here is that Billy Gunn should not have been as he should not have looked as exhausted during this match. Like he should have been the more freshest because his match against Ken Shamrock was a referee stoppage. He had so much time, and then I mean, he did have a competitive match, but the interference means from Triple H also shows he didn't have to exert himself too much to get the victory. And then you still had X Pac, who is supposed to be still supporting a leg, a supposed injured leg, a hurt leg. So in all this situation, this match should have just been either Billy Gunn toying with X-Pac and then being surprised, or Billy Gunn just runs over X-Pac and wins. It shouldn't have been kind of like a competitive match between the two guys. I mean, there may have been some shades into it, but in the last minute or so, it really did come down to, okay, we've we fought our hardest. We're fighting until we can't breathe anymore, and then Billy Gunn just wins.
Yeah, and then we get into the main event, which was Vince and Shane McMahon defeating Stone Cold Steve Austin to get control of the company back. And look, I didn't know much of the storyline. The recap showing the lead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, the recap did not do anything to help me make sense of this because it was so weird. Undertaker was involved with some weird stuff, and there's like all this stuff leading up. It was like so much weird stuff. Like,
well, what I do remember from this, I will say, when it came with me as a wrestling fan, I came in like around 97 or 96, but I was into WCW at that time. But I had friends who loved the WWF, so they would always give me highlights. And I think maybe around like late 98, early 99, I started to watch WWF, so I was coming in around this story angle. And I do remember, Vince McMahon at the time, of course, the big bad guy, and then he gets Shane turns on him, making Vince McMahon a babyface, and Vince is trying to do this whole thing where he's trying to atone for all this crap he's done as the asshole boss, and so he's fighting against Shane, and then Shane, who is developing his own thing with the corporation, because he takes the corporation from Vince, and then he joins with the Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness to form the corporate ministry, and it's pretty much just a big bad guy stable with too many bodies, and it just goes further down the line where Shane's trying to take control, but Vince is still like one of the last good voices there, and then he forms an uneasy alliance with Austin, and then at that point, I do recall Stephanie was starting to be introduced earlier on television. And so there at that point in the storyline, Stephanie, the sweet, innocent little girl that she's being portrayed as. And then, of course, and then I think earlier on, I think somewhere within March or April, it's hard to recall when, Undertaker starts saying that I respond to a higher power, and this higher power is guiding me to do the actions I'm taking. And then, of course, we get that Monday Night Raw episode where we get the build up to where he kidnaps Stephanie, and then on Monday Night Raw he's performing a marriage ceremony, but it's supposed to be all occult like. So you got Stephanie being held out in the ring, crucifixion style, on the Undertaker symbol. And the whole thing's supposed to be like, okay, we're forming this union. And then you have everyone else trying to get involved in stopping it. And, of course, fast forwarding through all of that, Stone Cold was champion at the time, if I recall. And then Stone Cold faces Undertaker. Undertaker beats Stone Cold and he loses. And then I think on a Raw, Undertaker and the Ministry of Darkness have Stone Cold tied up and says, you're going to meet the higher power. Higher power, of course, is hooded, cloaked up. But we don't see who it is. All we know is that Austin sees underneath, and he's just shouting like crazy. And the following Raw follows. They reveal the higher power, and then we got that classic, "It's me, Austin! It was me all along!" And then on that same Raw, Vince reveals his plan, and then after he's finished, Linda and Stephanie come out. Linda announces she steps down as CEO, and says she appointed a new CEO, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin. And this was also at the time when Triple H betrays DX and joins the ministry, the corporate ministry. So that it's also kind of like, it does play a bit into this whole why Triple H is fighting like a bit of King of the Ring. Like, there is that mini storyline of Triple H in China trying to be like, we're done with DX. That's why they joined the ministry, the corporation. But all in that, and this is all like within a month, because this was after Over the Top. So Yeah, all within a month, Stone Cold as CEO is just doing insane crap. I mean, grid TV stuff, but he's making the Ministry, Vince McMahon, their lives a living hell to where we get this build up to where Austin is saying, okay, you want to be CEO again? You want this title back? Then I want me and you in a match at King of the Ring. And I think he says, I think I recall, he does say, I'm going to be generous. I'm going to let you pick a partner of your own choice. Or something happens where Vince gets the opportunity to get a partner of his own choice. So, but even then, they play it all like, oh, we're gonna put this whole thing in a briefcase, and then we're gonna hold it high above the air, and I'm gonna beat your ass, and then I'm gonna go up and grab it. But just the build up in between those two pay-per-views, 1 month of this whole thing, it I swear it's some of the most insane crap ever. To of course we get to the day of the pay-per-view, and then of course, yeah, you're doing this whole thing of who's Vince's partner gonna be. And so I love the fact to where and when the match starts, he's gonna be like, "Oh no, I'm gonna pick Steve Blackman," and then of course Michaels comes out and goes, "Nah, it's gonna be Shane. You two are gonna face Stone Cold." Okay,
Yeah,
but I'm done. Like that's as much as I recall of that story. If the WWE Network still existed, I could have watched old episodes of Raw on the build up.
yeah. I mean, I wish that they would still do that and put them all on Netflix eventually.
Yeah, I don't know if some of it's still split on Peacock or Netflix though in the Americas, because I know there's still some WWE content on Peacock.
Yeah. But yeah, and I was trying to get, but then we get Vince trying to bring out Steve Blackman, as you mentioned, and then Sean shows that Shane was completely fine and hanging out backstage with, I think it was the Acolytes or
No, the Mean Street Posse.
I knew
that group was supposed to be, I believe, in kayfabe, they were supposed to be Shane's old buddies. So they're supposed to be like the '90s version of just like yuppies or hooligans who just happen to be yuppies because they're wearing like the turtleneck sweater vests and all that crap. So it's kind of funny seeing, like, it's very fucking dated. Like you have to know exactly what the Mean Street Posse is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But even then, like, yeah, he's hanging out backstage with them.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, it kind of ultimately made that whole like storyline they had running for the shows like, oh, who's Vince's partner? Like, it has to have it come out to be, oh, you know, Shane was just backstage the whole time. It's like, it's gonna be the match that was originally scheduled. And then
like, it would have made more sense if he picked Triple H, because Triple H had been getting involved in so many matches.
Yeah.
So then there would have been a big
well, I mean, if they
had
had Triple, I think if Triple H wasn't arrested, then it probably would have been.
That's right. That's right. I just forgot that while I was explaining, while I was remembering the whole build.
Yeah. But then you had Austin sort of jumping them and to get the match started fast. It was ultimately, this was a really like fun ladder match. And like it was like there was a time where they're fighting near the entrance, which was like a canopy of ladders and stuff. It's like, yeah, you know that ladder.
It was an awning of ladders and I think chairs. Like it's one of those times when WWE was trying to make their like pay-per-views unique with their entrance setups. That it's one thing I miss, especially when they were transitioning to different eras. I'm like, man, the PG era just had more like unique set construction, like unique entrances, unique sets, unique stages. I think people would remember it more fondly. But even now with the modern era, now it's like long ramps is the new WWE like setup for a pay-per-view or a show.
But yeah, it's just one of those ones like when the phone's like, you just know that's going to come down.
Or someone's going to get buried underneath that.
Yeah, and then you had the spot where it was like where Stone Cold was trying to get the briefcase, and then the briefcase was just going higher and higher, which I don't know if they ever reveal who it was. I think it was heavily implied that it was Big Boss Man, but I don't think that was ever confirmed. And then ultimately you had like Vince and Shane sort of get the briefcase and for the win. And yeah, look, I mean, was this a good match? Not really. Was it a
No, it was a
match?
simple Stone Cold beating the shit out of him. Like that was the
Yeah,
whole point. I even liked when they were fighting on top of that ladder structure. Testing the whole, making sure. And I did like a bit of that. I think announcers were doing their best to make tension. Be like, oh, that might be coming down. But the moment like Austin threw Shane into one of those ladders, that thing just came down like a goddamn stack of cards.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those ones like if like Pez was here, like Pez will goes like Pez always goes like in any kind of match with a stipulation. Anyone set up a table, you know it's going to come into play.
Exactly. Unless it's like, oh, they just leave it there throughout the rest of the show. Like I kind of like nowadays if they set up a table or they something set up and then it's not paid off, but then it comes back later on. I don't mind that because then it at least makes some people intrigued instead of it's not used in this match. Are they going to clear it? Like, wait, no, they left it there. Like, okay, who's going to use it?
um, but but yeah, but Ryan, overall, what did you think about King of the Ring '99?
I mean, one thing I mean, when you sent me this originally, when I was doing my best to try to find old matches to watch, I mean, at least in the build, or at least try to look at the old pay per view. When I dipped into some video essays or some reviews about this pay per view, a lot of the consensus was this was one of the worst pay per views of '99, and I don't know. I mean, the way the tournament was structured, how quick these matches were, and the constant use of interferences and with Triple H involved, and of course the wacky ending to the WWE Championship match. I can't blame these sites for saying it's one of the worst pay per views, or at least some video essays calling it one of the worst shows. I can if the whole thing had been structured around maybe Austin designing this King of the Ring to be like, I'm gonna make the corporate ministry's life a living hell, I would have enjoyed that. But the fact that all that energy was just put into, Vince McMahon, I'm just gonna beat the shit out of you and whoever you got on your side, just so I can walk out as CEO and then reclaim my WWF title, and I'm gonna stop a mud hole in your asses and walk it dry. Like, if it was, because that's the whole thing. That's why I think this whole thing was like, I kept reiterating every time. This whole pay per view was just centered around Austin McMahon, and everything else fell to the wayside or in the background, to where it's like, we'll just take a bunch of guys together, and then or maybe a few like wrestlers that are involved in some storylines, and we'll make something out of it. Because obviously, to me, look, the King of the Ring setup, this definite storyline was it was going to be a mini Civil War of DX within D-Generation X. I mean, that's what I think about it in hindsight. But man, this pay per view, it's not something I would ever suggest anyone to watch. I'd probably just tell them just watch Austin versus McMahon's in that ladder match, and that's about it.
Look, it's one of those ones like I would say,
or unless if they want to see what Dwayne Johnson was like in his peak wrestling days, then I'd say I would also suggest the championship match.
well, I mean, no, I mean it's one of those ones like for me, like I would say, if you want to be completionist, watch it, but it's not necessary to.
Yeah. Like if you want to, like if you were interested in the whole Austin McMahon feud, like a completionist side, then yeah, I would say I agree with you. I would suggest that they watch this because they dominated a lot. I mean, it was the hottest angle. It's the hottest angle of the Attitude Era. So the moment Stone Cold, by the time Stone Cold got written off with being run over by that car, yeah, and this was also in '99 too. This is also '99. So they really did dominate the hot main storylines from '98 to '99. So I would for completionist purposes, that would make a lot of sense.
I mean, I've funny enough, I actually talked about that pay per view where he got run over by a car. Because there was Survivor Series '99, which I talked about earlier in the series. But yeah, for me, overall, Look, for me, the high points was the Hardys match. I thought was really enjoyed, even though it was short. And look, it wasn't good, but I did enjoy this the Vince and Shane versus Stone Cold match. But ultimately, it is 1 out of 5 stars. It's funny. Like, I've heard people go that 1995's King of the Ring is the worst King of the Ring ever. After seeing this one.
Wait, is that the one that had Maple win?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But after seeing this one, I don't know how bad it has to be if it's the worse than this. And I'll probably get to that one eventually as well, because depending on when it spins on the reel. But yeah. But speaking of the reel, it's time to bring up the reel and see what the next pay-per-view is, because there isn't a pay-per-view happening this week, so I'm going back to my big reel. Get rid of that one. Going back to my big blob reel, and hopefully
that looks like a weight. That looks like a weight I'd see at the gym.
Yeah, no, it's one of those ones that because I have started on the week of a pay-per-view. I will take off any pay-per-views off the reel and do a separate reel to do something that relates to it. So I may end up hitting one we've already covered since I started doing it a few weeks ago, but reel is spinning. May not look like it, but it is. It is stopping.
Ooh.
Going on to a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, which is Wrath of the Racket.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty. Yeah, I have to be confident that our Honor Club would have. Honor Club does have old ROH pay-per-views.
Well, I mean, I think it's on the I think it's on YouTube. It's the only reason I put Ring of Honor pay-per-views on here, because JP, shout out to JPO. But so a lot of these are on YouTube as well. But so he said he told me about them, so I've included them as well. But yeah, it looks like we've got Nigel. We've got a Chris Sabin match here. We've got Nigel McGuinness, Colt Cabana, AJ Styles, and a bunch of people in here. So it sounds like a fun show. But that's going to be the next pay per view. But Ryan, we can be find you online.
People can just find me on social media. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't use social media a lot anymore. I'm trying to take a sabbatical from it. But people can follow me on most social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Not calling it by its other name, or Blue Sky. So that's where people can follow me on. If you just want to talk wrestling, or heck, just have like a nice little, or heck, wrestling or anything outside of it, that's where you guys can follow me. Just you can private message, hit me up in the DMs, and we can have a conversation.
And you can find me on Take View Productions as I host Rankin every week. Next week's episode is going to be Top Shelf Steven Spielberg movies. We're doing a redux from last time, so it'll be interesting to see if that changes at all. And you can also find me here as I host Smith from the Past every week. Next time will be for Ring of Honor Wrath of the Racket, which can be fun. And I'll pop up here and there on the Move Here and Network as well. But until then, that is the end of Rank of... nope, that's the end of Smith from Past this week. And we'll see you next time. End the stream.